The Passionate Leader, because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an I-beam gone to a firefighter.
Get that out, urgent, transmit a second along.
This is where titles end and leadership begins. Ask yourself this. Are you willing to make the hard calls that cost you personally? If it means protecting the standards, the culture, and the future of your department? Are you willing to lead in a way that leaves something better behind, or are you just passing time until someone else has to fix that problem that you avoided? Sheridan Rhine is a firefighter paramedic with the CCFD and understands that leadership is not about rank, popularity, or comfort. It is about responsibility. At just 30 years old, Sheridan brings 12 years of experience that began as a volunteer and stretched across Texas, serving as a critical care medic, fire captain, and even interim fire chief on the volunteer department during a period of transition. He holds paramedic and FPC credentials, along with multiple leadership, instructor, and CISM certifications. That word always gets me, and has served as company officer and instructor. One of the most defining moments of his leadership journey came when he had to let go of a close friend due to issues with honesty, integrity, and job performance. That moment reinforced a hard truth. Leadership means doing what is right, even when it hurts. Sheridan is passionate about leadership, which is why he's here today, teaching the youth of the fire service and first responder mental health. His driving force is simple and uncompromising. Leave the fire service better than he found it and become the leader he never had when he started. Outside the job, he finds balance through hunting, fishing, gaming, teaching, faith, humor, and leaning on his brothers during the toughest calls. When things get heavy, his approach is straightforward. Embrace the suck together and keep moving forward. I have talked. I have stammered enough. Let's bring into the show our man, Sheridan Rhine. How's it going, dude?
How it's going, man? I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's been a long day. So we're recording right straight out of the gates. I've been at work all day. We talked a lot about, who you are, but let's, I guess for the viewers in the audience, let's kind of walk through, what got you into the fire service and kind of, bring us from where I just got us to right up to it.
Yeah. So, when I was young, when I was in high school, I didn't care about grades. I didn't care about anything. I knew I was going to go into the military. That was my ideology. I was going to go Army and do the things. Did my ASVAB, did everything, and then they found out I had asthma, and they said, "Hey, we can't take you." So it threw a curveball in to where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life because I didn't prepare for them to say no. I just banked on,
Right.
put all chips on black and just kept going. Well, my grandfather was a 30-year firefighter for Austin Fire Department, and he was a battalion chief when he retired. And was fortunate enough that he was alive at that time to tell me, "Hey, you should go be a fireman." And me having asthma, I had my reservations on it, but I went to this little volunteer fire department out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and I put my application in. They accepted me, and a lot of trials and tribulations. Got let go from there whenever the new chief came because I was with the regime of we didn't want to change, and then got brought back 6 months later. Actually came crawling back, begging for my job back, and he sat me down and he showed me the change that he wanted to make, and for me to either hop on it or not come back. And I hopped on it, and he raised me not only as a fireman but as a man because I came from a broken family. He raised me as a man. He raised me as basically his own son, and even taught me how to do taxes, how to you know do day-to-day life stuff. And I have that man to thank for it. His name is Chris Castor. He probably doesn't know I'm mentioning his name in podcast, but he probably wouldn't want the recognition either. But um, I owe him everything. So he let me back into that fire department with open arms, and raised me up not only as a fireman but as a man. And he basically just led me in the right direction and brought me up to the man I am today. And I have everything to thank for him. His name is Chris Castor. He works for up in the DFW area. I'm not going to tell everybody where he works, but he'd probably be
Sure.
pissed that I even mentioned his name because he's not one for gratitude, but he is the man that changed my
Yeah.
life. I definitely want to lead in reflection of him and the way he led me, and so that's why I'm here today.
I love it. Now this on the career side, I assume, right?
No, this was volunteer. I got fired from a
Okay.
volunteer fire department and got brought back.
Really?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
I was
Let's
so I'll dive in on that a little bit real quick.
yeah, let's unpack that a skosh.
I was a I grew up with a father that was in and out. Um, he was battling his own demons. He was doing the best he could. We're best friends now. He's my right-hand
Mm,
man for everything. But for a time, he wasn't. We were sworn enemies and did not like each other. And I so leaving high school, I probably had the mentality of a 14-year-old boy. Like I was not ready to
yep,
be a
yep.
man at all, let alone going into the fire service, diving into that head first and being there on people's worst days while I was acting like a teenager was probably not a good
Sure.
call on my part. So, unfortunately, he did. He let me go because of the old regime had instilled the old chief and the old people there at that department that were there before he was. Um, they instilled so much negativity and toxicity towards me, or not towards me and towards the department, that I was very negative, very angry, very just not not a good person. And he tried to lead me to the light, and I wouldn't see the light. I kept fighting to eventually he let me go. And I had to go back to another fire department down the road who let me go, just basically do whatever I wanted to do. Didn't help me grow. A
Mm,
lot of drama between the city and the department itself. And all my friends from high school went to the same department that I left. And I was like,
okay.
man, I could be hanging out with the boys, but instead I'm stuck here in this hellhole. And I came crawling back, my tail between my legs, and he sat me down. He said, "Hey," he said, "I'll give you your stuff back and I'll let you back on this department, but you're gonna make some changes and you're gonna follow what I do, what I say, and you're gonna be a good fireman or you will not work here." He had a lot of visions for that place to go paid and stuff like that, and I followed in suit to where I promoted as a driver underneath him. I promoted to a lieutenant underneath him, then I promoted to a captain underneath him. And then he left, and I had to fill his spot until our new chief came.
Mm,
And then that chief was a big city fireman that came from somewhere else who fought fire completely different than how we did, didn't want to change, basically debunked everything we worked for 8+ years. And then I saw
mm.
myself out.
Yeah, dude. Amen. Um, did was it so you did intern? Was it something that you kind of looked at you want maybe consider doing long term at the time, or did you know that this was I'm a stopgap
No,
until
at
they
the
get
time
somebody
I
to
was
come
at
in?
the 20 at the time I wasn't even considered a I mean I was doing the job of a chief, but I never called myself a chief. I didn't wear a white shirt. I was a captain. But I
Yep,
was
yep.
so we had me and 3 other captains, but the other 2 captains did not wanna have anything to do with anything other than being a captain. Our
Yep.
assistant chief was going through a divorce, and he was AWOL,
Yeah,
and
okay, fair
we
enough.
hadn't seen or heard from him, and so I had to step up, and I had to handle internal affairs with the fire department. I had to handle the complaints that people were calling in on some of the firefighters. I had to handle a big debacle that happened on a code between our volunteer firefighters and EMS because we had a paramedic on scene who was actually my partner at the place I worked at the time as a paramedic. And he basically called the paramedics out saying, "Hey, like you've just dug around in this guy's airway for 6 minutes, not doing any chest compressions. Like there's no point in getting a tube now. He's dead." And they threw him out of the
Mm,
ambulance. And then they called me and I had to go have a meeting with the chief because they're like, "You need to rein your guys." And I'm like, "Well, he's not wrong, you know?"
yeah. Tell
So
me where he's wrong.
I had to balance that tightrope of, yeah, I get it. Like our relationship with y'all matters. But at the same time, was he wrong? I
Yeah.
mean, were we providing the the best patient care at that time? I think not, but we
Yeah,
were raised
exactly.
different. We worked in a system, uh, we worked in the Metroplex in a busy system where we ran 3 or 4 codes a day, and
Mm,
they run 1
Jesus.
code a month. So we know what we're doing.
Right.
We knew he knew what he was doing, and he's my best friend, and I trusted his judgment, and I 100% had to, but I had to handle all that stuff. Going back to your question, I had to handle all that stuff as a 25-year-old interim fire chief, I guess, if you will, because no one else would do the
Sure.
job.
Yeah. Jeez.
And
When
I'm having to make phone calls and stuff to other chiefs. Like, how do you handle this at 4 in the morning? You know?
yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, and I mean that our peers can be the best support out there. You know, there's a lot of books on stuff and how to do it, but sometimes just a phone call again at 4 o'clock in the morning does it. Um,
Absolutely.
no, so I to the um to the volunteer side, you know, are there? I guess I'm just trying to figure out what was the reason if you can share and if you can't, that's fine. We'll jump on it. So I mean, obviously we have heard a lot of times out there that you know you can never fire a volunteer or whatever the case is. So, I mean, for the parameters that they had, was it you know a call percentage requirements, or did they just do the old fashioned good old boys club and walk you out the door?
No, so when this fire chief came in, so he was paid. He was a paid
Okay.
chief. So we have
Yep.
an ESD. I don't know if you have ESDs up there where you are, but we have an ESD. It's an emergency service district. So what it is
Okay.
you take a fire district and then you get it voted in through the people in that district of yay or nay and how much money they want to give. And it's basically it covers all the fire department. And so he was paid. I was volunteer at the time, but he wanted to turn it into a paid department. So he ran it like a paid department. We ran shifts like a paid
Okay.
department.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
did PATs, we did interviews, we did everything like a paid department. And that's the direction he wanted to go. I, being a volunteer at the time, I didn't want to wear a uniform, let
Mm,
alone act like a paid fireman because that's not what we were. I'm not getting paid to be there. That was my mentality back then. I'm not getting paid to
sure.
be there. I'm being here because I want to be here. You should respect me. And that's just
Yep.
not the way he wanted to go. What it was I was being such a um degenerate and just argumentative that he just told me, "Get your stuff and leave."
Mm,
And
fair.
I
Yep.
left. He actually suspended me first, and then I told him, "F off," and I left. So I technically didn't get fired, but I definitely got fired.
That
But
happens.
I was young,
Obviously,
dude.
yeah. Well, dude, when we're young, dumb, full of cum, we don't know what the hell we're
Oh, for
doing.
sure,
And
for
I
sure.
mean, I promoted up to lieutenant at 22, and I thought I knew everything, and everybody else around me was fucking stupid. And it turns out that that was generally pretty damn close to 100% incorrect. So I get it, and there's a lot to be said about that. And obviously, being tossed into the mix at at a young age to be an interim chief while they find somebody else to do it is it takes a special breed, right? I mean, you understood if everybody else says no, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'm kind of the one. So, I mean, you sounds like you handled it pretty well.
Well, that's the thing is that department, when he did that, I mean, me included, he let go of probably 60% of the department.
Mm,
And he was fine with it
God
because he
damn.
kept the good ones. He kept the good ones, and then after that, he
Yeah.
brought in people that were willing to walk the walk and talk the talk like he wanted them to, and it was all
Yeah.
for the better of the department. And, then slowly but surely, a few of us trickled back in saying, "Hey, maybe this guy was right," you know? And then eventually
Well, I mean,
he moved it up to a paid department where we were part-time paid. I was a captain, but I got paid part-time.
sure.
And,
Yeah.
ran the show, did the scheduling, did everything. I did full-time hours for part-time pay, but it was the best he could do.
Sure.
At one point
Yeah.
before he left, he took 50% of his money that he was making, and he gave it back to the department just so he could pay us before he
No
quit.
way, huh? That's
We were
crazy.
that bad off. We just weren't making enough money. We were running
Yeah.
1,600 calls as a volunteer combination, not even a combination. I would consider us just a full volunteer department with a few paid guys.
Dude, I mean, Jesus. It'll take our department. I mean, shit. 1,600 calls is going to take us at least another 5 to 7 years before we even get that many. So that's insane. I mean, and so it goes to show, the strain that's on the emergency services and shit like that. So, I got to tell you, man, you hit something a little bit. It's pretty personal with me with the dad stuff. So I had a pretty tumultuous relationship with my dad too. Um, and that this is more for this is, anecdotal at this point. So my dad passed, and then we were kind of getting into having more of a relationship because it's just how it was when we grew up. Dad wasn't really part of the family. It was, mom and my brother were how we grew up. So to be able to have that, dude, that's definitely something I always admire if somebody has that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll never forget the breaking point of it. It was a pinnacle moment when I left college and said, "Dad, I'm dropping out of college. I'm gonna be a fireman." He completely disowned me. He said,
oh my
he's like,
gosh.
"You're nothing. You're nothing to me now because you're not getting a college education. I wasted all this money." Now, granted, he
Uh,
did help pay for my college, but I told him it just wasn't for me because I was sitting in a classroom and they were shoving all this useless knowledge into my throat about
sure.
like, and it was political too. Like, I'm not going to get into politics with you on here, but they were trying to
Sure,
shove
sure.
ideologies down my throat that I didn't agree with. And I don't care what side of the ring you are. If I'm paying money for education, don't bring your crap in there with it. Like, I want an education so I can get a
Yeah.
degree and move on. And so I left, and we didn't talk for like a year, and it was heartbreaking. Like
Jeez,
Christmas was,
dude.
yeah. And my dad had a stroke actually to top it all off,
Mm,
and
that's what took my dad was a stroke. Yep.
yeah, he had a stroke, and he's blind in his right eye now. Thank God he's left-handed when he shoots guns, so he can still hunt. But
Perfect. Sure.
um, you know, he um he was sitting in the hospital, and it's a crazy story. He was sitting in the hospital. He was at the local hospital in the town that just adjacent to where I worked, and we were on a probably a 26,000 acre grass fire, and the helicopter zoomed in on a brush truck that was on the fire line spraying water, and on the back of that brush truck was me spraying water, and my
That's
dad's like,
awesome.
"Holy
Yeah.
shit, that's my son," and it clicked on him that I don't just
Yeah.
sit there and play video games with the boys all day long. I am actually out there doing something very honorable in his and per his words. And
Mm.
we reconciled, and we had a really hot, like, the hard conversations, the come to Jesus conversations that we needed. He quit drinking, and he straightened his life out, and now we have the
Awesome.
best relationship ever. You know, he's he's about to be in my wedding, whenever I marry my
Nice.
wife. So it's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
exciting,
Yeah.
man. It's
Yeah,
very
dude, that's a
humbling.
great it is. It is. That's a good transition. I mean, obviously, we had a conversation this morning, just shooting the shit on the phone this morning as we were kind of putting tonight's details together. And you kind of discussed something that I think is very, very huge, and we might as well just get right to it. It and then, that's making sure that we take time outside of the fire service and not necessarily make this our absolute identities. Why don't
Absolutely.
you, dive right into that head first, 1,000 miles an hour, and we'll attack this thing, face first.
Yeah, so I made a TikTok, and I just got back into TikTok. I used to be TikTok famous a long time ago, but for other reasons like satire type stuff, and I took it
Sure.
down because I was looking for a promotion in the big city that I was working in at the time, and I knew if they found that it was going to be like, "Oh hell no. We ain't hiring this dude as or we're not going to promote this dude." So I took it down. Then got the promotion and I left anyway because it was god awful working in a big city. But we whenever I first started in the fire service, that was my complete identity because I had nothing. I was a nobody. And whenever I was at the firehouse, I felt like somebody. I felt like I mattered. So it was like
Yeah.
an
Yep.
addiction I kept chasing. And so I stayed in that firehouse probably 347 days out of 365 days that first year. And I just hit the
Jesus.
books, EMT school,
Yep.
fire academy, you know, running calls, making my name, and it took a huge toll on relationships with friends, my family. It took a huge toll on the girl I was dating at the time. We were high school
Sure. Of
sweethearts.
course.
I thought we were gonna get married and all this shit, and she left me because of the fire service. She basically boiled it down to it's the fire service for me. And in my mind, I
Mm.
guess whenever I was younger, and the back and how my thought process on this was I was doing this for her, for us.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
could get a
Yep.
stable job because she was still I graduated high school in 2014. She graduated high school in 2015 or 16. So she was a little younger than me, but there wasn't that much age difference. But
Mm.
she was I wanted to be settled in and ready to go so she could go do whatever she wanted to make herself happy. go to college, play
Yeah.
pro
Yep.
softball because she was really into softball and all that stuff. But in the long term, man, I just completely fucking buried that shit, bro. It sank to the ground and got covered in sand, and it was all my fault. And it's actually pretty funny. Going back on, I'll go back on what we were talking about, but she actually became a 911 dispatcher for the county that I worked for shortly after that. And
No
her
freaking
first ever
way,
call,
dude.
yeah, her first ever call she took by herself was like it was a mass cas. We had an
Ah,
18 wheeler
sucks.
that pulled out in front of a bunch of cars, multiple fatalities. I landed 4 helicopters in the same field, and I'm running command of this thing
Jesus.
at what, nine- 20 years old, running
Yep.
the
Yep.
command of this fucking scene. And she texted me afterwards and she was like, "This is what you've been doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "That was awful." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm not just sitting around playing video games all day." Like and we tried to give it another shot and it didn't work out, but God has
Sure,
a
of
plan,
course.
and God has a plan, and she's happy. We still keep in touch. She's happy. She's married
Yeah.
to a cop of all people. And
Okay, figures.
yeah, she's married to a
She
state trooper
she
and has like a whole family and all this stuff, but God bless them. Uh God works in mysterious ways. I wouldn't have found the woman of my dreams, if it wasn't for that. So it worked out. But
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
going back to the whole thing, I made a TikTok that kind of went viral about, you know, don't dedicate your entire young adult life to the fire service. Like, do it. Like, go to school, get educated, work hard, but also take time away. Like,
Yeah.
go
Yep.
play football with the boys. Go don't give up your young 20s and your old teens and even to your old 20s just
Mm.
immersing yourself in nothing but fire and EMS because it will eat you alive and spit you out. Um,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
and it's a terrible thing to say. I hate to say it about the fire service, but that's the name of the game. Like you immerse yourself in it, and you don't take time away to get like to cool off your mental health and just relax. Like you will sink quicker than ever. And I learned that the hard way. And we can dive into that later about my mental health injury and how I became a critical incident stress management counselor and all that.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Um, because that's a whole nother topic. But you know, I I taught that, and a lot of people kind of dogged on me on it, like, no, the fire service, you should devote everything to it, and it's your identity. And I agree. I agree. When people ask me what I do and I say I'm a fireman, they look at you different. Like I get it. But at the same
Mm.
time, people also have to understand you are human. You have a wife and kids and family and friends, and you do stuff. You go out and have beers with the boys. You go out and play football with the boys. You go out and play golf and go on vacations, and you're a human. You have other hobbies other than just being a fireman, you know? So it's just very it's a blessing and a curse identifying yourself as a fireman all the time, you know?
Well, in what we're finding a lot, dude, is people when they finally do retire and they're done, they have no idea what to do. They get used to the 24, 48-hour shifts, whatever the case is,
Yeah.
and insert shift schedule here. And then when they're done, they're like, well, now what do I do? Well, what I don't know. What we know what were you when you weren't a firefighter? It's like, I don't know. I always was a firefighter. I again immersed myself in being a firefighter. So there's a lot of discussion, and finally people are opening up that's where a lot of the chronic mental health stuff is coming along, where people just don't understand that, man, if I don't have something else to do that does not identify me as a firefighter, what the hell am I going to do?
Exactly.
For me, it's travel. I love to travel. I like to see different areas, and it can be different for anybody else. Others like to just read. They like to go to the library, read a book, or surf the web. They game.
Play video
Gaming is a
games,
really good way.
Yeah.
Dude, amen, dude. There's a hell of an amount to be said about just plugging a game
Just cooling
console in and
off.
just completely, yeah, just losing yourself in or watching movies. Just live somebody else's reality for a hot second. But
Yeah,
dude, it's so true.
that's something that I had to have a conversation with my fiance about is because when I get home, I come home, I say hi to her, I say hi to the dogs, and I come in my office and I start gaming, and for a while it bugged her, and she didn't bring it up for a while, but I knew something was off. But um, she um she brought it up one day. She's like, "I feel like you play a lot of video games," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's to help decompress." She's like, "How does that help you decompress?" And I had to explain to
Mm,
her because I'm a big gamer. I us as firemen, we when we start shift, we are on edge all the time. We could be called to someone's worst nightmare all the time. And the decisions that you and me make on those calls, whether it be EMS or fire, can dictate loss of life, loss of property,
mm.
and it could change people's lives forever. And we are making those decisions consistently throughout the day. So I
Oh,
explained
yeah.
this to her, when I get home, I want to immerse myself in something to where if I mess up, there are no repercussions from it. If I
Yeah.
play Battlefield and I'm playing and I get shot and I die, no big deal. I just restart, and
Sure.
that's the thing. That's the thing that I had to explain to her to make her realize, oh, this is how he decompresses.
Yeah.
Um, going back to what you're saying about firefighters losing their identity when they retire. Um, there's a high suicide rate. I don't know the numbers but I looked this up in a study for a class I did. But firefighters are in line or right below soldiers in suicide when they retire. Because why? Because soldiers, when they come back from war and they are out, that is their identity as a soldier, and they lose that
Yep.
purpose, and
Yep.
they're alone, and they're sad, and they have no way out of that depression, so they off themselves. Same thing as a fireman. You've been doing it for 20 years, going to the firehouse. Now what do? You lost that identity. You say, "Oh, I used to be a firefighter. I was a firefighter," but that's not the same. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah. No, for sure.
it's really it's really heavy. Retirement's really heavy on the boys and the girls. Um, so it's something that we have to look at, and we have to, there's a guy at my volunteer fire station down the road and he was a retired fireman, and he still volunteers with us. All he does is drive a truck because that's all he can do now because he's like older than dirt itself. But, you know, he has to, he has to he has to keep busy or his mind will go crazy.
Mm. No, it's so I'm actually looking it up right now. I'm on the US Fire Administration's website, and right now this was a looks like a 22 report, so it might be a little bit. It's probably gonna be higher now. Firefighters, the suicide rate for us is 18 for every 100,000, as compared to 13 for every 100,000 for the general public. So obviously, the shit that we see is weighing on us and stuff like that. Um, so, I mean, if you want, so I will preface, if I ask questions that you don't feel like answering, do not answer them. But I believe mental health and stuff like that in the fire service is extremely important. So why don't we let's go again. I love face first and head first stuff. Let's dive right into it.
Absolutely.
And kind of get us, if you want to talk about some of your personal history and stuff, and
Oh
why it's
yeah,
so important to you and shit like that.
I'm an open book. So, like I said, I grew up in a broken home, had a bunch of problems growing up. Um, lack of lack of not really lack of parenting. My mom did the best she could, but I needed a father figure.
Sure.
Every male needs a father figure in their life to raise them how to be a man. Um, I mean, moms can do the best they can, aunts can do the best they can, but a true man to man conversation can do wonders for a child. So when I grew up, I was a very hothead, very angry, not the same person I am now, uh, but I kinda mellowed out, and I was doing fine until I was working for the Metroplex area and COVID kicked off. Now when COVID kicked off, I was in paramedic school. 2019, I was in paramedic
Mm,
school. They pulled us in. We were my little group of guys, we were the top of the class, and we kinda stuck together. We did our work, we talked to each other, but we didn't bullshit with anybody else because it was all drama and all this
hmm
other crap. And, they pulled us in, all 5 of us. We thought we were in trouble. We're like, "Oh, shit, what did we do?" And they're like, "Hey, y'all are all making 90s and above in the class. COVID's full swing. It's coming to America, like it or not. We see it coming. Um, you're gonna graduate early. You're gonna take this final." So we took the final, we graduated, took our skills, took the national registry, passed, and just like that, boom, I was a paramedic. And I went through very quick FTOs, but it wasn't nothing crazy, you know. And then I was immersed in it, face first, ready to go. So I got immersed into being a paramedic really quick. Had a little bit of FTOs, and then I just took off with it. And COVID happened, full swing. I went from being an EMT to now I'm transporting people on vents on their bellies with 7 drips hanging from one hospital to another, or running cardiac arrests. Oh, like 10 times more than what I was already running. You know, people were dying left and right. Hospitals were shutting down. We were having to tell people no. Where I worked was a very racially diverse area, and
Mhm.
they saw the white man as racist because Black Lives Matter had also just kicked off. So whenever you're telling
Oh,
them
of
no, you're
course.
not
Yep.
going to the hospital, or we're not taking you to the hospital because you're not sick enough, or and the hospitals are too full, they would call me racist, spit on me. I got stabbed once.
Mm.
Like, it was pretty crazy.
Jesus.
So it
Yeah.
took a huge toll on my mental health. And then I remember one day when it actually happened, and I buried it. I buried it because I was a man, you know? Like, as men, we don't talk to people because we're the man,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yep.
So I buried it for a long time. My childhood, all my trauma, all this stuff. Uh, Back before this, actually, when I was a volunteer, I responded to one of my best friends who'd shot themselves in the chest, and he was dead. I was the first one in the door. A lot of stuff I buried, and then this kicked off. And I wasn't well. I was very angry, very hostile. Everybody was meeting me with hostility, so why not meet them back with hostility, you know? That was my mindset at the time, which was a terrible,
Sure.
terrible mindset. And then just one particular day, man, I remember I ran 3 kid codes in a single day. I ran a SIDS case in the morning, I ran a drowning in the middle that I got Rosk on, that passed away in the hospital for after I got him back, but he got pneumonia real bad, septic, and died.
Okay.
And
Yep.
then
Yep.
I ran a kid that got hit by a car. And to tell the story quickly, I was in Walmart, and this was an area where they had armed security at the Walmart. So that's the kind of area we're in. So I'm trying to piss in this toilet, or this urinal, and this armed security guard is talking to me. Now, I'm not one for talking with my pecker in my hand. I don't know. I don't like having casual conversation while I'm
Sure.
trying to,
Sure. Yeah, buddy.
So I'm just trying to short term this guy, and the phone goes off. We had a Logis. It's called Logis. It was a phone, like a big, thick, like a BlackBerry looking thing. And it
Yeah.
went off, and I look at it, it says priority 1 accident. Now, most accidents in our dispatched system are never priority 1. It's always priority 3, priority 2, and then it gets upgraded as they get more info. But this one came off immediately as a priority 1. I said, "Oh, that's weird." And then the notes started coming in. Autoped, auto versus child, stage,
Yeah.
multiple
Yep.
callers, stage, unconscious, stage. And I was like, "Okay, okay, well, like we're gonna go stage." Well, I walked out of this Walmart, and across the parking lot, there's a road. And on this road, there's about 100 people screaming. And I was like, "What is going on?" And they look at me, and I'm looking at them. We're probably like 100 yards away from each other, and they're waving at me. And I was like, "Oh shit, we can't stage. We are here." And so I get on the horn. I said, "32, we're not able to stage. We gotta make a scene. They can literally see us, and they're waving at us." I said, "32, be advised, large crowd, very chaotic." I was like, "Receive, we can't stage. We gotta go." So my partner at the time was another paramedic, my best friend. We went over there. We showed up on scene, and everybody speaks Spanish. Now, I speak enough Spanish to get by, but not in a chaotic situation like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
chaotic,
Yep.
very fast. I'm trying to decipher what they're saying. So, to paint the picture of the scene, mom is laying on the ground unconscious. I don't know if she was hit by the car
Mm.
too or not. Kid was laying in the dad's arms, and he was cradling him, rocking back and forth. And then there was about
Jeez. Yeah.
100 people. Now, the backstory to this, the kid was playing out in the front yard playing tag. Grandma had just passed, and they were doing that, and the kids were playing tag in the front yard. Well, these 2 dudes were drag racing down the street, and they hit this kid. Well, the dude got out thinking he hit a dog, He's checking out his car. He doesn't know the kid's still underneath the car. Well, then he
Oh
turns
my
around
gosh.
and there's 100 people running out of a house straight at him. So he shits his pants, gets in his car, and drives off. Well, the kid's still under the car. He drives about
Fuck
100
me.
feet,
Yep.
hits a speed bump, spits the kid out, and that's when we come into play. So I'm trying to tell this guy, hey, give me your kid, give me your kid, give me your kid, give me your kid. He wouldn't give me the kid. He was freaking out. And so the one guy that spoke English was pissed because I wasn't doing anything. Now we have all of our shit right there, but I'm trying to get the kid away from the dad. And he's like, why aren't you doing anything? Do something. Why aren't you doing anything? I'm like, listen, I need you to help me get the kid out of his arms. Well, he didn't want to have any of that. He was just getting more angry to where he put his hands on me. Now,
Okay. Yep.
from my past history of my childhood, I don't like being touched. I black out when I
Sure.
get touched, especially when I'm touched unprovoked. So I
Mm.
immediately flipped the switch of defense mode. I pushed him, put my hand in his chest, I took my leg, swept him. He went to the ground. He didn't move anymore. I don't worry about him. So by this point, I'm pissed off. So I walk over, I grab the kid from the dad, and I just yank him away. I'm like, at this point, I don't care. Like I do care, but I don't care about. I got to get out of this situation.
Sure. Yep.
I'm in
Yep.
fight or flight mode at this point. So I grab the kid. I've got the kid like a football, trying to hold his head, and I'm going to the ambulance. I just feel warmth down my arm. I'm wearing a short sleeve, and I'm like,
Yep. Yep.
what is that? And so we get him in the ambulance. At the time, I had an 18-year-old EMT student as well in my truck. So
Okay.
I threw her in the truck, said, "Hey, do not move. Stay in the back. We'll deal with this. You don't need to be out here for your safety."
Yeah. Yep.
So I bring the kid in the truck. We lock the truck down, and by this time, my partner had already hit his button, the red button for code. We call it a code blue. That means send me everybody and anybody that's in the immediate area. Now we already had battalion chiefs and everybody already on the way, but now we have everybody. So we're working on this kid, and obviously when we got this kid in the ambulance and I rolled him, his intestines had been protruding out of his rectum. His
God.
spine is
Yep.
showing. He's toast. But at this point, I look at my partner and I say, "Hey, we cannot call this here. One, we're in a crime scene because now this kid, if we call him in the ambulance, it's a crime scene. Two, if we call this here, we're going to have a mob of people trying to beat our ass outside. So we're not doing that either." I was like, "We're going to
Right.
transport this kid to the hospital." I'm like, "Are you good with taking care of this kid? Because I am not in the right state of mind." And he said, "Yeah, I'm good." He's another paramedic. Life was good. I got up front. I told the EMT student, I'm like, "Hey, if you're comfortable, you can stay back here. If you need to ride up front with me, whatever you need." And she's like, "I'm good. I'm going to help him." I was like, "Okay." Get in the front, drive, make a phone call to the hospital down there, the children's hospital. And I say, "Hey, listen, we're in a shit situation. This is what's going on. I'm sorry we're bringing this to you, but it's coming, like it or not. We'll be there in 5. We're running. We're screaming down the road." Um, Police actually rendezvoused with us, and they're cutting off all intersections, and we're, you know,
That's
scooting.
awesome. Yeah.
But
Sure.
we got there. They pronounced the kid dead, and I remember walking outside, and I was just a wreck, man. I wasn't
Of course.
very much
Naturally.
sad, but I was just angry. I was angry about the whole situation. Um, I remember my supervisor walking up to me, and she's like, "Hey, you need to go home." And I was like, "I'm good. I can finish this shift." She's like, "No." She's like, "Your shift is done. You're not okay. He's not okay. Y'all need to just call it." So as she's saying this, I look over. They've got this EMT transfer crew. We have transfer vans over there, 2 EMTs. They're in my ambulance. They've got 5-gallon buckets, and they're just dumping water, just trying to get the blood out. And there's just copious amounts of blood pouring
Jeez.
out of this truck.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
was like, "Yeah, you're right. We need to go home." So
Mm.
I go home. It's about an hour drive. I had a girlfriend at the time, once again, who I thought I was going to marry. She was asleep. And so I showered, I sat there with and I just tried to just chill. And I came back in and I laid down. She didn't move. And there was this TikTok going on her phone. It was just over and over again. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like a surprise birthday party. I don't know, but there was this scream in it. It was just a scream, and it kept happening over. Every time the video would replay, it was over and over. And eventually,
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. And I don't like touching other people's phones. I don't like people touching my phone. I don't like people touching other people's phones. But I grabbed her phone and I exited out of that TikTok, and boom, I come across a text message where it's her sending nudes to another man, and
No fucking
oh
way.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, just to top
Jesus.
off the day, you know. So
Right?
I had one or two options, and I pride myself with choosing option number two every day now. But I I could have flipped that bed over with her in it and told her to get her shit and leave, or I could have been the man, the adult, and just left. It was my house that I was renting, so I just wrote on a napkin saying, "I know everything." And I put it on the dresser right by her keys. I grabbed my shit, got back in my car, and I drove back to work. I called my supervisor and I was like, "Hey, I need to come back to work. I don't care what you have me do. I don't care if I'm in logistics. I don't care. I have to come back to work. I am not okay mentally." And
Yeah.
it got to the point where I was very much this was, and I'm ashamed to say it, but it's something that people need to hear, is I was very much suicidal. Like that was my breaking point.
Well, of
Everything I
course.
had
Right.
up to this point was just a bomb annihilated. You know, my
Mm,
career had taken a flunk. I've devoted so much to this career, and you know, I felt like every day was just a battle. I was fighting a war that I wasn't going to win. I was getting spit on. I was getting disrespected. I was getting mistreated by management, supervisors. I was
mm.
not taking care of myself mentally. I was very much into alcohol at that time. I
Yeah.
I was just a train wreck, and I just wanted it to end. So I remember racking my gun. It didn't have a bullet in it, but I was racking the gun, and I was squeezing the trigger to see how long until the trigger would click. And I was like, "That's how long I
Sure.
have." And I was literally
Yep.
contemplating suicide, and one of my best friends called me, and he's like, "Hey, bro." He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, and it's 4 in the morning at this point, okay? Like, it is not.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yep.
what is this dude calling me for?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm fine." He's like, "I don't think you're okay." He's like, "Come to my
Mm.
house, just we'll talk." And my one of my best friends saved my ass that day.
Yeah.
I was very
That's
much on my way
fantastic,
out.
dude.
But
Yeah.
ever since then, you know, I've been really big on mental health in the service because you know, we bury a lot of shit in our brains, man. We bury, you know, I can still hear that scream today of that mother, you know,
Sure.
plain
Oh,
as
yeah.
day,
Yep.
you know, and that's been fuck 5 years ago.
Man, yeah.
You know? It's crazy. But yeah, that's the story of like how my mental health and how I managed to pull my head out of my ass, and now I just don't ever want anybody to ever go through that same thing of feeling alone like I did, because I was very much alone, and it wasn't because I didn't have help, it's because I didn't ask for it. Because I didn't
Sure.
tell anybody what I was going through for so long.
Right. Right, right. Now, so obviously that was that the catalyst that got you into getting, like, CISM trained and all that stuff, or
Absolutely.
was
Yeah.
there something? Yeah.
No, that was it.
Uh,
That was it. I talked a couple of my buddies off the ledge a couple times. Before that, I lost 3 or 4 paramedics to suicide and firefighters to suicide. Friends, one of my old partners, I literally told him, you know, this was back in 2000, and it'd probably been 2018. I told him like, "Hey man, I'm getting accepted to paramedic school." And he's like, "Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so proud of you. If you ever need anything, let me know." And I was like, "Man," I'm like, "I miss you, man. You're a good dude. Like, I appreciate all the knowledge you instilled in me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you." He's like, "Oh, no problem." And then 2 days later, I found out he'd shot himself, you know?
Jesus, right.
So,
Yeah.
it's hard, man. And I had no idea. He showed no signs. No signs.
Yeah.
But he went through a divorce. His wife took everything. Like, he was done. He was cooked.
Mm.
And he wouldn't ask for help.
There well, and I think that's the point. I mean, and is if somebody really is hell bent on doing it, they're gonna hide it really good. And our service is full of guys who are very good at burying things and stuff like that. So it makes we're good at burying, all of our trauma and stuff until it finally gets too full. And it's the fuck it bucket, right? When the bucket
Yeah.
gets too full, it's something has to spill out.
Mhm.
And sometimes we think that the only thing we can do to get rid of it is to rinse our mouth out with a revolver type thing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
hard, man. It's a very hard thing to It was very hard, a very hard thing to go through.
Yeah. So, but dude, I think it's great now. Now, did you go out to get, so you got SISM trained? Did you go kind of that, did you go get your own, mental health as far as
Oh,
seeing
yeah. Yeah,
counseling and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, 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 they had me go get therapy. When they found when work found out, they were very much like, "Hey, we gotta get you some help."
Sure.
So I did, I went to therapy.
That's a good place.
It was actually kinda crazy. I went to a therapist that specialized with mental health, and first responders and military personnel, and I told her all this stuff that I told you, and she was like, "Alright, now let's talk about your childhood." And I said, "Nope." I locked down, and she started picking at me about it, and she's like, "Why don't you tell me about your childhood?" And I was like, "I just don't wanna talk about it." And she dug down deeper and deeper and deeper, and she actually unraveled a lot of things that I had buried in myself from the time I was 6 years
Yep.
old, 7
Yep.
years old, dealing with my dad and, his addictions and his vices and everything else, and it actually made me realize that, I was traumatized before I ever went to the fire service, you know?
You were dealt a shit hand from day one. I mean, it's tough when you start behind. It's really hard to get caught up. It's like workloads.
Yeah, it's hard.
Dude, that's awesome. I love it. I feel the more and more that I get to get people on the show and stuff, everybody is carrying some form of trauma, and to have, a day like you did, man, when everything just, again, it piles up, it's cumulative. It's really bad. I mean, I can say one thing that I think, and you ended up doing it anyway, but a supervisor that kind of was like, "Hey, man, this is a bad situation. You need to go home, and it's your shift is over." Like, and so that's whether they were, they may have made poor calls, for other reasons. But I mean, that's a good thing that a lot of leaders need to realize. Even being at the scene of, fatal motor vehicle accidents, if we're doing traffic detail or stuff, just being there on scene for a prolonged time when the adrenaline starts to wear off, that's when shit seeps in.
Oh, yeah.
When now we're looking at, there's a body in the road with a blanket over it or whatever the case is.
Yeah,
Dude, I'm glad you got the help.
my first fatal accident I ever ran, I was 18 years old, and, I remember the dude was dead. He rolled his vehicle, ejected himself into a whole thing of cactus. We couldn't get to his body, so we tried to drape it, and I remember I
Yep.
was trying to
Yep.
throw this drape over, and his phone was laying next to him, and it just kept ringing,
Jeez.
and it just
Oh,
kept ringing,
goddamn.
and yeah, and it was
Yep.
it was his daughter trying to get a hold of him, and,
Yeah.
that we had to sit there and block traffic and deal with that, and, and we couldn't touch the phone because it's a crime scene, so it's like, what do you do?
Yep.
And, she eventually, I don't know how she found out. I think she probably tracked him by, like, Tracker or Google Maps or something, or
Well, maybe.
I
Yep.
think he had one of those, like, Waze or something that, like, alerts people of, like, "Hey, your loved one might have been in an accident or something." And
Yeah.
anyway,
Yep.
she rolled
No, of
up
course.
she rolled up, and, of course, I'm out there, and I'm like, "Hey, let's not go over there." And she's like, "Why? I need to see my dad." I'm like, you," and I'm 19. I'd have never done this before. I'm like, "You don't wanna go over there," which is probably a terrible way of doing that, but I'm 19 years old,
No,
dude.
of
I don't
course.
know what the hell I'm doing. And, bro, that scream, that scream still sticks with me, and that's been 12 years,
Yeah. They
you know?
they do. Yeah, no, and there are certain things that we do learn to live with, and that's, certain things that we learn to live without, or whatever the case is. But it's the overarching message that people, I think, need to get is that it is okay to not be okay, and to go get help. And there's plenty of
Absolutely.
resources out there for
I
damn
s
sure. No matter
I
where
say
people
that.
live, there's resources.
I say that in all my videos, and I'm sure you've seen the TikTok video where I said it is okay to not be okay. And, I
Yeah.
write my phone number after every single one of my classes, and I tell them to save that phone number, and if they don't have anybody, they can turn to me. And,
Yeah.
I've had a couple
I
people
love it.
do it, man.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the show, I'll have you, throw out all your contact stuff. We got to, probably a little bit in about 10 more minutes or so before we get to wrap up. But I wanted to hit on, where you're going with training and stuff like that, because I've seen a lot of your stuff on social media as far as training the fire service. Uh, you're very passionate about that, and I love it. You're passionate about leadership and stuff like that. So I guess, where's one space that you've seen, a void, if you will, in the fire service that you can fill?
Um, a void, really, like, the only void I have, like, things that, like, are you talking about, like, how you fix how what's one thing I could, like, fix with the fire service?
Yeah, like what was the catalyst that, that was like, man, I need to step up and really help fill somewhere that we're missing the mark in the fire service.
Well, so we have a very large gap between the fire service. We have older gentlemen who are in their 40, upper 30s, 40s, 50s, and then we have these 18-year-olds, these 19-year-olds, and these 20-year-olds, and there's nobody that's that I've seen. I mean, there's a few 40, 50-year-old guys, 30, 40, 50-year-old guys that like teaching the youth, but I see a very big lack in youth and teaching the
Mm,
youth. Like
okay,
what
I get
happened to
that.
me. You know what I mean? What happened to me?
Sure.
I got hazed, I got treated like shit, and then that new fire chief came in and he opened the doors after he fired me, but he opened the doors to educating me and helping me
Yeah,
be better. And that's something that I really want to be to lead and to
yeah,
and or introduce into the fire service of teaching these young kids, because a lot of these young kids, the reason why people get into the fire service is because most people, they don't do it because, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do as a kid. Something traumatic has led up to them doing this. From what I've talked to on a lot of firemen, like something
yeah,
happened where they became this person. Um, that wants to do this job. And a lot of it is broken home. A lot of these kids, especially nowadays, do not have fathers in their household that taught them how to be men. And now
yep.
they're coming into the fire service and they're just like me. I see them as me, young me, when I was a like a shitty little kid who just talked back and was just angry all the time and didn't care about authority and stuff like
Mm,
that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I try to be like that. I try to be like that cool uncle, Like,
Sure.
I
Yeah,
I'm s
yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm just
Of
trying to
course.
lead them and show them the light and show them that, like, they don't have to go through the same hurdles that I went through.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean?
Dude, so true. So true. Um, one of
I'm
the
not
things that I
saying
thought was really
spoon feed it. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, you're spot on, dude. It's shit, man. If spoon feeding stuff. I mean, we do need to be more personal and professional in the same breath, but
Yeah.
we can't be completely soft because if we start heading down the soft route in the fire serve the soft continue down the soft route, I should say, because I think we have actually hit that route quite a bit and pretty hard, but
Well, I
um
think so too because of COVID. I don't know about up where you are, but where I
sure.
was when COVID hit, we lost 40% of our medics and EMTs like that. They are either
Yeah,
retired or they quit. They said, "Fuck this. I don't want to do this. I can make more money doing something else." And they left. And
that's a valid point, yeah.
we're still suffering from that. We're still trying to recoup numbers from COVID. And
Oh wait, it checks, yeah, that makes it's a good
in the
point. That's
same
actually a really good point, actually.
in the same breath, like we're saying, brotherhood and come work for the greatest, you'll be the best thing, or like you're the best fire service or the best family, blah blah blah. And then they get there and we treat them like shit.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
what are we doing? Like we're preaching that we're hurting for numbers of people, but at the same time we get people coming in, we treat them like shit and they leave, and we're like, oh golly gee willikers, I don't know why they're leaving. And it's like, I wonder why. Because we treat these kids like they're children, and they're not children. These are young men and young women who have chose a profession that 30-year-old me now, looking back with all the cancer and all the possibilities of what could happen, like, is it a smart decision for me and my young family to do this? You know?
Mm, right.
So and then we're just solidifying it with just treating people like shit. Yeah, I'm not
You're
saying to be
onto it, dude.
soft, but I'm saying to be firm, but be respectful and just know, like, at the end of
Sure.
the day, these are the guys that are going to replace you. You know, you're not getting any younger as a 40-year-old fire captain or whatever you are. You're not getting any older or
Right, right.
younger as a 60-year-old fire chief. Like, someone's going to have to take your place, and if we don't start breaking the stigma of treating people like shit their first probationary year consistently, then we're not going to have anybody to replace us that's worth a damn.
Yeah, dude, they fucking men. Well, and you hit on it, right? We in at this point in the fire service, let's call a spade a spade. Everybody likes to throw around this, this phrase brotherhood.
Mhm.
And with all of the platforms that are out there, satire stuff, people get more enjoyment, it seems, out of shitting on people and putting people down and,
Mhm.
Monday morning quarterbacking calls that they weren't even at, and I've been guilty of it myself. I still do it with certain calls. Or I'll make uneducated guesses with what little information I can get from a 30-second clip or
Bro,
not
that's the
even a
world of
clip. It might just
TikTok.
be a picture.
That is the
Yeah,
world of
dudes.
TikTok. So many people are
It
armchair quarterbacking things that they know nothing about.
Yeah. No, dude. Absolutely. And so really, and it's the same ones that do the shittiest talking and the biggest amount of um belly aching are the ones that, oh, it's a brotherhood. It's like, don't give me that
No,
bullshit. It's a brotherhood,
no.
and claim shit's a ball busting experience, because it's not. Calling people names is not ball busting. That's bullying. And
Yeah,
we could go on for hours
it's
about
just
that.
unprofessional.
Um,
And those
oh
people,
yeah,
in my eyes, those people are the ones that are they're not they're not good at the craft, or they're not they have problems with how they're handling situations. So they come on the internet hiding behind a keyboard, and they decide to
yep,
shit on somebody else to make themselves feel better. There was a big, and I'm not going to mention names, but there's a big uh group out there that all they do is talk shit about people, and I used to think like, oh, this is funny, man. Like they'll
sure.
they'll show some god awful videos of some bad firefighting, and I'm like, man. But you can use that for training of like what not to do, but when you just straight up shit on people and
Yeah,
their
exactly.
livelihoods, man, that doesn't check out. That doesn't make them any better. That doesn't make you any better. So why are we doing it? It's just a waste.
Honestly, brother, it's soft egos or people who just feel the need that, if I don't shit on somebody today, that, people might actually see through it's their insecurities. Actually, I think that's what's
Yeah,
shining
that's
through.
exactly what I was trying to go at. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't play that game, dude. Listen, um, I appreciate the time. We really honestly just barely scratched the surface. So we'll have to try to figure something, for another time to kind of sit down again. Um, what I do is, so I'll end the show with the question I give everybody. It's our boilerplate question. What is your unadulterated advice for a brand new individual starting their leadership journey in the fire service?
Find a good mentor. Um, vet out the bad ones. Find a good one and lock to their side and train. Train until you can't train anymore. Don't train until you can't get it. You get it right. Train until you can't get it wrong, and then always
Mm,
use do repetitive. So if you put your bunker gear on the same way every single time when you're in the shit, you know that your brain's going to autopilot you into doing exactly how you train. Put on a pack the same way every time. Train other ways in case you can't throw your pack on that way. Force doors. Throw ladders. I don't care if you throw ladders 150 times. Throw it 151. Oh, throw
ladders 100
ladders.
and something times.
Yeah, don't throw ladders 150 times. Throw it 160 times. Like always strive to be better. And then whenever you get to that spot where you're now being a mentor, be that mentor that you needed when you were young, when you were new.
Mm,
Be that guy
I love it.
that you needed. Be that father that you needed when you didn't have one. Be that um paramedic that you needed when you didn't have one. You know what I mean? Just be
Yeah.
just be better every single day.
So for those in the audience that want to reach out to you, what is a great way to get a hold of you, whether it be email, phone, website? What you got for us?
So on Facebook we have Lone Star Leatherheads. Lone Star, all one word, space Leatherheads. You'll see it. That's my Facebook. That's the training cadre that we're trying to get going.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, listen, I appreciate the time. It actually was a great way to end the week. For those of you listening, thank you for spending time today with us on the Passionate Leader podcast. If something today hit home, Don't just sit on it, share it. Follow the passionate leader across all platforms and pull up a chair every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TikTok, where leadership meets the kitchen table and real talk drives real change. If you want a deep conversation or deeper conversations in this and first access to exclusive offers, join us on Patreon and step into the inner circle. Importantly, though, guys, and Sheridan already said it, but we do it every time. Be the kind of leader someone else is praying for. And no matter what comes your way, remember this: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until we meet again, guys, stay safe.